right, team, we're going to give this a crack again. If this doesn't work, then I'm done. I'm down for the day. I'm throwing my toys out of my pram. My life as a Facebook Liver YouTuber is clearly not my destiny. So we will just see how we go and see if we can actually not make a complete balls up of this. And yeah, we'll see if headphones makes a difference to everybody's noise sound quality. So I will just, yeah, I can see Lauren. So let's see if I can add her in. And we'll see if we'll sound back feedback again, or if we can wriggle on with life. Okay, how's that?
I can hear you.
And I can hear you.
Yay! We got there.
Christ. All right, I'm going to start this rambling again, but I've got Lauren with me from Mad Max Mum. Today we're going to be talking about living with anxiety. We're going to be talking about the stigma around mental health. We're going to be talking about solo parenting. We're going to be talking about fitness and health. As usual, the materials and content that we discuss is recommended for general information only. It's not recommended as a substitute for professional medical diagnosis or treatment. So, you know, don't be a pelican and see your healthcare practitioner. Hi.
Hi. We finally got there. Yay.
Oh my God. Thank you for putting up with this absolute fucking professional rigmarole. What can I say? I'm such a professional YouTuber. Not.
Oh, that's boring anyway.
Oh, I know, but that's actually a job. Like, that's actually a job. Professional YouTuber. That is people's job. Isn't that bizarre? Like, isn't that bizarre that in this day and age, like, did you ever think when you went to school that your job could be professional YouTuber?
No. And if Maddie came home from school, I wouldn't support it. Never.
Oh, it is bizarre, isn't it? It is bizarre, but there are people who are actually making a living out of being a professional YouTuber.
And a good one at that too.
Absolutely. It's actually quite incredible what the internet has, I think, created and allows for these days, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I might get you to start off just by introducing yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your jam?
What's my jam? I'm Lauren. I am a mum of two, Maddie and Max, personal trainer. I am a speaker for Livin', raising awareness for suicide and mental health. And I'm also, I guess you could say, a writer or a blogger as well. That's my jam. Is that?
That's your jam.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how did your blog start? Like, how did that even come about?
Because my dad told me to do it. He'd always tried to push me to writing.
Do you do everything your dad tells you to do?
Oh, he's not too bad at giving advice. This is probably his best bit of advice he ever gave me. But yeah, when I fell pregnant with Max, he was always on me to write a book about my history with mental health. And then, yeah, when I had Max, he's like, why don't you just start writing? So I did. And when I was writing, it just flowed and it was very honest. And I felt my best when I was writing very honestly, and people started sharing it. And that's pretty much where it came from. It was a bit bizarre how it started. And whenever someone asks, how do you start a blog? I'm like, oh gosh, I'm the worst person to tell you. So it's a fluke.
That's exactly what I say too. I'm like, it happened in spite of me, not because of me.
Yeah, exactly.
I just started writing stuff and I don't know why people started following, but they did.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the reason that people follow you and you have got this, you know, cult following of people who completely adore you and support you is because you are completely honest. And I think there's so much perfection on the internet these days. There's so much Insta perfect. And
yes,
it's, you know, it's lovely to see an Instagram feed that is perfectly curated and the color scheme is lovely and everything, you know, looks beautiful. It's visually appealing. But in terms of being relatable and real, it's just not that. And I personally feel like there's just so many, particularly Instagram accounts out there that are just always on point. Everything is on point. Everything is beautiful and perfect. And that's lovely. But that actually I don't relate to that. And it doesn't feel real to me. It actually just makes me feel bad about myself.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
Yeah. So I think people adore you because you are real and you don't pretend that everything is rainbows and lollipops all the time.
No.
But you also don't spend your entire life bitching and moaning, but
No.
you just do make sure that, people understand that you have bad days and everyone has bad days and you can pick your shit up and move on again. So
Yes.
you just mentioned before that your dad was encouraging you to write about your journey with mental health. What is that journey? What did that look like?
So it all started when I was about 16. I just started year 12 and I got myself into a violent relationship, physically violent. And I hid it from everyone while it was going on. And it took me about 2 months to kind of completely change who I was. I was crying all the time and I was so sad, and just my folks had no idea what was going on. Obviously I did, and I didn't know what was going on with my emotional side. Got taken to the doctor and got diagnosed instantly with severe depression and anxiety. And it was at the point where I couldn't really go to school.
And was that still while you were in that relationship, Lauren, or had you gotten
Yep.
out of that relationship? You were
No,
still in the relationship.
I ended up staying into that relationship until the end of the year. It got worse and worse and worse as the year went on, and still didn't tell my folks. I think they had some idea that something was going on. And then, just I got sicker and sicker and sicker to the point where instead of going to class, I was in the senior coordinator's office, just crying my eyes out all the time. If I wasn't doing that, I was trying to get out of school. So my parents knew that I wanted to be a personal trainer at that stage and took me to a PT college, had a look, and then we're like, well, maybe this will help you. It did for a little while. I was in a class full of people that were so much older than me, and being surrounded by those types of people gave me the courage to leave that relationship finally. And it was after I left the relationship that I finally told mum and dad what was going on that entire time. So that was pretty much where my mental health journey started, and it just kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah. And how did your parents respond when you told them?
They blamed themselves, as parents do. They thought, how did we not know this was going on? And obviously dad being dad was like, let's go to the cops. But me just wanting to get that guy out of my life completely, I just wanted to shut it off and start again. Unfortunately, because I'd kept so many emotions and things and suppressed them, it was only a matter of months until I got very, very sick.
Yeah, right. So you very openly talk about your journey with dealing with anxiety and depression and all that sort of stuff in your life now. Do you have any particular tools that you use or things that you've come across that work for you when you have those feelings or when you feel like you're in that really sort of dark place?
Absolutely. I like to think that, or I always kind of say that depression is like a dormant volcano. It takes just that one little trigger and it'll erupt. So over the years, I've definitely had to learn how to cope and strategize rather than suppress, because that does nothing. So little things for me, and these are only things that have, I guess, been highlighted in the health and wellness industry over the last couple of years, is meditation. That's something I do on the daily and I share with my followers. It just allows me, especially because I do start my work very early on in the day, it allows me to center myself and just gain clarity on things that would normally give me anxiety when I wake up. Like when I stress, I wake up in the middle of the night and then it'll stay with me until the morning. So I need to make sure that that shit's out of my head before my girls come in to train. So meditation's a massive one for me. Self-talk is also, even though it's, I guess, hand in hand, self-talk is really the biggest way that I've learned to overcome a lot of stress and stuff. So like as a single parent, financial strain is a big one. Back in the day, I would sit there and cry and think the world's about to end because I've got no money. These days, it's like, okay, what do I need to do and how am I going to hustle so I can pay my rent this week? It's a whole different mindset change that I've had to do, and it's taking me fucking years to get to this point. It's the hardest thing to do, and I still have my moments where, you know, I stress and it's like, bugger the self-talk, I just want a glass of wine. But, you know, for the kids' sake, the good self-talk is probably the healthiest option. And then training is my biggest thing. That's why I became a trainer, because I wanted to help myself in a way that wasn't self-medicating. And
Yeah.
it's a much better format for me anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And so when you are feeling super anxious and you've got the kids there, how do you manage that? Like I just yeah, that's something that I find really tough with, Grace, when you are having those moments where you're feeling super stressed or super anxious or overwhelmed and you've got this little human there.
Yeah. I used to struggle real bad, and I would end up on my kitchen floor crying. Over the years, I've just learned that getting outside the house has really been the thing that works for the kids and I.
Yeah.
I just love seeing them smile, and that's generally the biggest thing that helps me so much, because they are my biggest drive and my why as to everything I do. More often than not, I become that clingy mum where it's like, Max, can I have a cuddle? And he's like, oh, again? Really? He's 3. He should not be arguing with me about a cuddle. It's not fair. It's why I made him. And then Maddie is just, oh gosh, I call her like my little nurse sometimes. They've grown up in this way that I think we've been so open with our feelings in this household with the 3 of us that the kids have no qualms in coming to me when I might look a little bit stressed and going, are you okay, mummy? Are you happy? And then they give me a cuddle. So somehow I've managed to form that culture in this little house of ours, and I'm very proud of that. I don't know where they get it from, but I'm so glad that they're like that. They're a massive help. So just them being themselves helps my anxiety, but if that fails, then it's, but let's leave the house. We need to get out for a moment. So
Yeah. And so you mentioned that fitness has been something that really helps you in terms of mental health and managing that anxiety. What sort of training do you do? What does that look like for you?
Well, at the moment, I have a little gym in my garage, which is great because I actually suffer from anxiety as to walking into a gym. It's very hard for me to do that. I will if I have a friend that's a trainer. I'll do different sessions at different gyms. I like training lots of different ways. But I find that if I'm just moving in general, then I'm happy. I love getting outdoors as well. But I like lifting heavy weights. That's probably my favourite thing to do. It just makes me feel like a badass, and I don't know, there's just some sort of therapy where your mind has to switch everything else off and just think about that bar that you're lifting, and it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, and I think there's something really empowering about feeling strong. Like even, sometimes when you think you potentially don't feel very mentally strong, knowing that you have that physical strength is really, really nice to feel like you've got that to back you up.
Oh, hell yeah.
So why does going into a gym make you feel anxious when that's like your happy place?
Honestly, sometimes I think it has a lot to do with probably Instagram, because there are some places that I go that people might know who I am, and sometimes I just want that time to myself where I'm not being watched and I'm not being judged. I think everyone, when they walk into a gym, and if they don't feel this, then all to them, you're so lucky, but feel judged with, do they know what they're doing? Like, what's their programming? And there are certain people that will sit there and watch you. And especially being in the fitness industry myself, I just want to walk in there, do my workout and leave. I don't want anyone to watch me. And, I do lots of different things all the time. And I think that's why, even though I train with my good friend Michael sometimes, and I love going there with him because he's there. But if he's not there, I'd probably crumble. I generally just keep to myself at home like a little hermit.
Yeah. So if you had to describe yourself as an extrovert or an introvert, what would you say?
Oh gosh, I'm a bit of a mixture. I have my days where it's like, yeah, let's get out. I feel like running a group fitness class. Like, I just want to see all my mates. And generally that's when I have a really good hair day. When, more often than not, it's just like, fuck everyone. I just want to stay at home today and stay behind my computer and just be with the kids. I love meeting new people, but I also only have a very small, close-knit group of mates that I trust. So as much as I love getting out there and being social, I only trust a few people. So I think that's where that line gets drawn with that one.
Yeah. No, I feel much the same. I get extreme anxiety about going into a big group of people who I don't know. Like
Yeah.
that just, that's not my idea of a fun time
Yeah.
at all.
And yet we're
I
both
would rather
speakers. How does that work?
I don't know. But it's funny. My partner John's always like, yeah, but you quite happy to sit there like in your pajamas with no makeup on, looking like a hot mess, talking to 50,000 of your closest friends on Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
what does that work? I'm like, but they're not in front of me. Like, there's not actually, I can't see any faces. So for me, I think there's a lot more danger, I think, and risk in doing that, because people on social media can be complete assholes and be total pricks, whereas people who are standing face to face with you are probably less likely to be.
They're still behind your back.
Totally. It still feels safer to me, though, than actually being in a big group of people face to face. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is. It doesn't really make sense when you say it out loud, but
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. So you are super open on your social media. Like we said before, you're very honest, you're very open, you don't hide much. Is there any parts of your life that you keep private from social media?
Sometimes there's that part where I wish I'd kept my boyfriend off it, because when it breaks up, everyone's first question is, oh, what happened? Like, where did he go? And no, I'm not going to share that with you. So I shouldn't have shared him with you in the first place. So if anything, that's probably the only thing. I mean, you give them an inch, they take a mile sometimes. So
it's funny, isn't it, how entitled people become about your information, like your private information. I find it really, really interesting, the complete lack of boundaries that some people have when it comes to social media. And in some ways you think, it's great that you feel like you know me.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Yeah.
And if there's something I've chosen not to tell you, there's probably a pretty good reason for that.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes what they're focusing on takes away from the message that I generally put through my Instagram. So yes, I'm honest and I'm putting out these certain things there, but the things I'm putting out there are the ones that will help you the most. You knowing my relationship status is not going to help your life. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just really interesting, isn't it, those sorts of boundaries? And how do you react to those sorts of questions when you get them? Because inevitably you do.
I like to think that I don't react. I either respond or I do respond, and it's in a way of trying to be assertively. I try and be compassionate as well, and just let them know that that's part of my life that I'd like to keep to myself. And if I wanted to talk about it, I probably would have done it already. So that's generally how I do answer those questions.
Yeah, I think that it's just a case of creating boundaries, isn't it? And creating healthy boundaries so that people understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it comes down to things with the kids as well. There's so much that I tell them what I need to. I tell them what will probably help them. Then they don't need to know everything. So it's just a matter of I'm strategic in terms of keeping us safe. At the same time, I think a mailman's about to turn up at my door too. Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's a good package.
Hi, I'll be back in a sec.
As you can see, we are nothing but professional here. We might even get her to open the package when she comes back. What is it? What is it?
Talk about professionalism, eh?
I was just saying how incredibly professional this whole exercise is. What did you get? What did you get?
Something from Stuck on You. So I haven't ordered it. I don't know. They just have my address. Yeah, winning. No, that means it's not for me. It just means it's for the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of sticker situation.
Yeah, probably.
So we had a few questions come through about solo parenting, co-parenting. How do you manage that situation? And do you think you manage it well? Like, how do you do that? How do you navigate those waters?
You of all people know that I wasn't handling it at the beginning. Gosh. The beginning sucked ass. Excuse my French,
Yeah.
but there's no other way to explain it. You don't know what to expect. No one ever warns you. The feelings that you go through, the guilt that you go through, and the adversity, it's absolute bullshit. It really only got reasonable for me within the last year or so. There was just, it took, nearly 2.5 years of navigating of what do you want, what do I want, and a period of time where it was like we were fighting, but we'd just forgotten that this is about the kids, it's not about us. And, there was a little bit of just unnecessary treatment that was in there as well that I didn't handle too well. And after all of that, it really just took him finding someone that made him really happy for us to really work out that, we can be mates. And it got a lot better from there. And luckily he's found an angel of a girlfriend that's just made my life a whole bunch easier.
Oh.
But
right. So that's the turning point, and that's the key. So anyone who's struggling with co-parenting, you need to pimp out your ex and
wait till they get a missus. Well, that was my answer, but I mean, in my head before he found her, it wasn't awesome. A lot of tears, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. I didn't leave my house for quite a while there. It came down to working out when it was necessary to communicate and when it wasn't, learning to respond instead of react, and to know your rights as a parent, and not fall into the trap of believing everything they say because you're so scared of doing something wrong and losing your child. Unless you're an absolute derelict who is on drugs 24/7, you're not going to lose your child. And it's a lot of, I think this is where I learned a lot of my self-talk and positive self-talk to myself, is because I had to teach myself to not fall into the trap of believing everything that he would say. And I was absolutely petrified of it for so long. Every time my phone buzzed, I cried. I hated my emails going off. I literally just had to turn everything off and hide my life because I was so scared that someone was going to use something that they didn't agree with against me. And once I got rid of that fear, I realized that I was actually a really good mum. And yes, I might have needed to release the kids a little bit more to their dad because it was all about them. I was just so fearful of all these things because I'd raised them by myself for so freaking long. It was hard for me to let them go just that little bit more. But, now I try and use that 2.5 years of absolute horror. There's no other word to describe it. It was horrible. And kind of show people that, I mean, everyone's situation is different, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you learn how to cope with it in your head. And the biggest thing that I've always said is you can only control how you think and what you say and do. You cannot control what the other side of co-parenting will do. That's completely up to them. And more often than not, I've heard the horror stories. It's purely about mastering your own mind when it comes to being in that situation. That's the biggest piece of advice I've got when it comes to that, because it's shit.
Yeah. But is he a good dad?
Oh, he's a fantastic dad. And if anything, he's gotten so much better through these years, because originally when we first separated, I had them all the time, 99.9%, and then it went to like 70-30, and then it was 50-50. So if anything, he learnt, they always say that dads don't become dads until their kids are actually right in front of their face. And he's always been a fantastic father, and I always believed that he was a fantastic person as well. He just needed to find that person, and
he just wasn't the right person for you.
He was definitely not the right person for me, but gave me two pretty awesome kids. So he's done his job, and like now I could say he's my mate now, so it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so he obviously has somebody else in his life now. Was that difficult?
No, no. Oh
No.
gosh, I wanted to throw a party.
Yeah.
I just, for so long, it's like once I realized that I wasn't the right girl for him, and we knew that just it was just never ever going to work, and he opened himself up to meeting someone, and then he did, and it was just to see him happy. It just looked like he was himself again, and she
Yeah.
was lovely, and I really, really, really like her, and she's fantastic
Yeah.
to the kids. So I have absolutely no complaints now.
It's great, isn't it? It's funny. You see a lot of people who are, separated or don't have good co-parenting relationships with their partners, and it's. I just find it incredibly difficult to watch because it's not in the best interest of the kids, is it? Like it's
Yeah.
really hard to navigate that situation. And then, when there's other people who come into the mix, when there's new partners and stuff like that, chicks especially can be complete bitches.
Yeah.
But I just, like, for me, in my situation, I feel like the more people Grace has in her life who love her and can look after her, the luckier she is.
Absolutely.
And you're their mum. You'll always be their mum.
Yeah.
So that's not ever in question. Like, I always just, try and communicate that to people who are really struggling with that whole managing that co-parenting situation. And, my ex has got a new partner and, they've got, the kids have got a new mum. No, they
Yeah.
don't. You're
Yeah.
still their mum. You'll always be their mum. There's
Yeah.
nothing, and if they've got another, strong, independent, intelligent female in their life to teach them things, that's great. They're lucky.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. Like, I'm lucky that she hasn't once been nasty towards me. I got very lucky there. She's also got two kids of her own as well. So she was already strong, already independent. So if anything, Maddie's got two very strong females in her life
Yeah.
that have both been through exactly the same thing. So if anything, Mads is not at a loss when it comes to being an independent female. God
Yeah,
help me.
that's amazing. And so what is it that you're doing with Livin at the moment?
So Livin, what we do is we go around to workplaces and schools and sporting clubs and do talks to raise awareness for suicide and mental health. So it's really just giving people the education as to how to start a conversation with a mate that might need some help, or if they need the help, how they should reach out and do it. So it's really talking about the taboo subjects that I get, especially in high school. You teach health and fitness, but there's no mental health. So that's where we come in.
Awesome. And so if somebody had a friend, brother, sister, whoever, who they think is struggling with some mental health issues, what's the point of call? Where do they go?
Generally, if you've got something like a feeling that someone's not really coping, it's first of all, you're their first point in being their support. And it's about just opening up the conversation and asking them if they're okay. And generally where it goes from there is people struggle to understand that there's a difference between hearing and listening. Now, most people will ask, are you okay? And then hear the answer and then jump in with advice, when most of the time that person just wants someone to listen to them, actually open their ears up. They don't want to be told what to do. Once they've opened up, that's generally the best thing that they could possibly have done, and it all goes from there. And generally, if that person does listen, then they can work together as a team and support each other, and that person feels supported. So it works in so many different ways. It's just about opening up that conversation to where they feel comfortable that the stigma around mental health isn't going to stop them from getting the help that they need.
Yeah, which is awesome. And so people can go over to the Livin website as well to get information about that sort of thing, or to get Living to come to their workplace or their school.
Yep. So there's all the, so Livin, generally they work with Are You OK Day and Beyond Blue. So we kind of, have the resources to send out to the ways that they can be helped. To get them into the workplace or into a school, it's as easy as just contacting them.
Cool. So you talked about how for you fitness is a big part of your mental health and wellness and how that really contributes to you feeling good. Do you think that diet and nutrition has a role to play in that?
Absolutely. When I was first diagnosed, the first couple of years when I was really, really sick, I was drinking like a fish. I was overdosing on my antidepressants daily. My dad had to hide everything from me because that was pretty much the only way I knew how to deal with it. And this is going back like 11, 12 years ago. So there was no emphasis on nutrition and exercise and everything in terms of a way of treatment. Not that it's a way of treatment, it's just a more preventative
Support.
support for the symptoms. But yeah, not once did someone tell me to get outdoors and get active, or, obviously I got told to drop the bottle, but, that wasn't going to stop me. I was 18.
Yeah.
And it was just all about, here's a pill, we'll send you out on your way. And I feel like if back then I had known how important nutrition and everything was, I hopefully would have done something a little bit different. Which is why I'm so grateful for the emphasis on it these days as well, especially in high schools where my whole journey started. It's so good to see that the stigma's wearing down. I'm not going to say it's worn off, but the conversation has been started and people are less scared to say something about it. So fitness, God, if I didn't have it now, I'd be a wreck. And I wish that I had just stuck it out at personal training when I was 17, but I think I needed to go through those things, unfortunately, to get to where I am. But if anything, it teaches me how much my training and my nutrition can help me now.
Yeah.
Hey, Grace.
And
Hi.
So in terms of nutrition and diet, is there any specific things that you try and incorporate into your life or avoid that you think help you?
I've learnt to drink responsibly now, which is good. I know when to stop and I know not to use it as a crutch or as a way of coping with my stress or my anxiety. I eat the kids and I eat a really good diet. It's not a diet, it's just good food. We eat real food. I like to find, the kids love chicken nuggets and stuff. I love finding things that, are necessarily bad for you and then turning them into something good.
Yeah.
And we just eat real stuff. But at the same time, I don't limit things. Like, if we're running late home and the kids are starving at 7 o'clock at night, I'll get them some chicken nuggets. That's what's going to happen. I also enjoy the odd chicken nugget as well. So
what's not to love about a chicken nugget?
I know, right? But I just found, like, I've had an eating disorder as well. So balancing it out to where I don't obsess about food and nutrition and to come to a healthy spot where we eat really good, but if we don't fall off the wagon, we just eat some nuggets every now and then. So, it's about having a healthy mindset towards it.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, my little friend's awake, so we might wrap it up. But thank you so much for today. Where can people find you?
I am _Lauren Kate on Instagram. I am www.madmaxmum, which is my blog that I've just given a bit of a birthday and revamped. And I am on Facebook but barely use it, so probably don't go on that one.
Perfect. I will link to all of those things below anyway, and then when I pop this up onto YouTube, I will link all your websites over there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Lauren. Bye.